Thank you, member. I now recognize the member from Courtenay-Comox.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This past Friday, I was wonderfully rejuvenated by a visit to a high-quality, affordable childcare centre in Courtenay-Comox. Outside, the over threes were playing under the careful supervision of ECEs, that's early childhood educators, and support staff. The kids were having a lot of fun, and there was lots of physical activity and lots of imagination. Inside, it was snack time for the infants and toddlers, and I was snuggling a giggling baby who was working on his snack, which was peas, and he almost pulled my hair off. Another toddler, I learned, had just come off a feeding tube and was learning to eat food by mouth, and he was relishing it. I was so impressed that this was a place where, through such a delicate transition, parents could leave their vulnerable child, leaving confident that they were well cared for and safe. I compare that to my own experience with childcare many decades ago. I had done some contract work at home while our firstborn was an infant. Eventually, I was ready to dive back into the workforce before I was obsolete in my field. I could only find a space in an unlicensed home daycare. Now, parents don't have to pass any tests before they have kids, and we know that kids don't arrive with instructions, but we do expect our children to be safe, to have their needs met, and yes, even to be nurtured when we leave them with a caregiver. When I learned my child had been spanked by her caregiver for a toileting accident, I felt that I had failed her. My trust in the caregiver was crushed, and with no other childcare alternatives in sight, I decided to stay home and not risk our daughter's safety and security. Fortunately, I had a spouse, and I had a spouse who had a good unionized job, and though the budget was tight, we survived. That's not everyone's case. But years outside the workforce take their toll on a career. Not only was I not earning a paycheck or building up a pension, I was also losing confidence, because without a job, I wasn't keeping up to date. And so, like many other mothers, I shifted into new endeavors, starting at the bottom once again, all because of a lack of safe, affordable, quality childcare. The state of the childcare system in British Columbia has been, well, there's been very little system. A poorly supported patchwork showed that childcare was simply not a priority of the previous government. Instead of opening doors to see women being a part of a prosperous economy, the opposition critic has consistently stated that moms or dads should be 24/7 childcare providers. This sentiment bears out by the lack of supports for our childcare system our government inherited. As the Minister of State for Childcare has noted, funding for providers was limited. Subsidies for families were tough to access with low return. And there's been a dire lack of affordable, quality childcare spaces. Our government has made childcare a priority. We're replacing a fragmented system that failed too many children and families and choked the full potential of our growing economy by keeping one parent, mostly mothers, out of the workforce, and even on social assistance. We're replacing it with a robust universal childcare system, thanks to the dedicated work of the Minister of Child and Development and a Minister of State who is solely focused on childcare. People are beginning to feel the positive effects of Childcare BC's 3-year, $1.3 billion plan. It is addressing education, recruitment, and retention of early childhood educators with 620 more learning spaces and flexible learning schedules so workers can upgrade their skills while continuing to provide the childcare that families so desperately need. So far, 5,400 ECE bursaries have been provided, and 11,000 ECEs have had a wage lift. The plan is addressing costs with startup grants for providers who move to become licensed. Licensing improves the quality of service, and families can feel more confident with enhanced safety and improved accountability from childcare providers, something I could have used. A capital grants to local governments and school boards, NGOs, and private facilities are helping with upgrading and building more affordable spaces, over 10,400 approved to date. The fee reduction initiative is benefiting up to 50,000 families, regardless of family income, and the affordable child care benefit helps families with incomes up to $111,000 a year. 27,000 are paying $10 a day or less. Families with incomes of $45,000 are not having to pay anything at all. 35% of parents rely on relatives so they can go to work. The BC Affordable Child Care Benefit provides up to $394 per month when grannies and aunties who don't live in the child's home care for their children. Combined, the fee reduction and affordable child care benefit can save many families more than $19,000 per year. Once upon a time, long ago, I had the privilege of working for a nonprofit on a project in partnership with the Institute of Health Promotion Research at UBC. We talked about the concept of diffusion of innovation. Innovation is not easily embraced by most people or institutions. One way to move toward universal adoption is to demonstrate advantages, tweak to fit unique circumstances, and work out unintended consequences, all by way of small pilot projects. And so it is how we are exploring universal affordable child care, beginning with 2,500 spaces at prototype child care centers across our diverse province, where parents pay no more than $200 a month. We're working toward the successful adoption of a universal child care system where everyone is a winner. The child care center I visited on Friday is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and it is now one of the prototype centers. After decades of struggle for support for the center and for families, providers and families are liking the changes we've introduced in the last 2.5 years. Providing for accessible, affordable, quality child care is not a gift. Our government recognizes that it works to close the income inequality between men and women and opens doors for tens of thousands of workers that will help to build a sustainable and prosperous British Columbia.